for allowing us to change the time from 2 to 4 today, and then suspended for just a couple of minutes to get started here at the 4 o'clock hour. Given the posture of Senate rules and House rules and various committees and people's schedule, I wanted to make sure with the nature of this bill we had an opportunity to get everyone here. Welcome to the House Committee on Small Business Development and Job Creation, and we'll get started in just a minute. Representative Cantrell, if you will, open us in a word of prayer.
Be together today, and Lord, again we come to you as we have in the past, and we're asking you for wisdom. We're asking you to give us the ability to see things from a big picture perspective and understand them, and to do what's best for the citizens of this great state. And so we're trusting you again today in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative. As I stated before to the committee, we've got in your folder for those that may have just walked in, a clean substitute to Senate Bill 2 with the amendments in there prior to the motion to table last Wednesday. So take just a minute and get your bearings on this new draft, this once again new draft, and provided for you is a Cliff Note version of the changes from its original form when Senate Bill 2 journeyed over from across the hall. I want to allow my committee here in a few moments to read over this and make sure that they are tracking properly with the changes that were made, and to know that the posture of this committee is to take action on or to have discussion about Senate Bill 2 today. The bill is laying on the table, which means that we will be open for a motion if this committee so moves to take that bill off the table for further amendment or discussion. And we've got Representative Cantrell.
I'd like to move that the bill be moved off the table. SB 2 be taken off the table.
We've got a motion from Representative Cantrell to move SB 2, the substitute to SB 2, and I want to make sure everybody's reading correct. That is LC 430703 ERS. The motion is to take that Senate bill off the table. Do I hear a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor of taking the substitute to Senate Bill 2 off the table, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? I would say the ayes clearly have it, but for clarity standpoint and any confusion, I want to make sure we see a hand vote. Those in favor, raise your hand. I'm sorry, Representative Carter. This is to take the bill. Did you hear the motion?
I heard table, and that's all I heard.
We're taking a vote on taking the bill off the table for discussion and further amendment in this committee. All right. Those in favor of taking substitute to Senate Bill 2 off the table signify by raising your hand high where it can be counted. Opposed? Same signal. All right, motion carries to take it off the table and open for discussion. At this time, the committee will take up the substitute to Senate Bill 2, LC 430703 ERS. And I would like to take the committee's time and draw your attention to some of the changes that have been made. Last Wednesday, this committee moved and agreed by passage through a vote to strike Section 6 in its entirety. We changed on line 112 to add the words "when possible." Struck the word, excuse me. We also struck the language dealing with the 50% regulatory fees and refund portion dealing with state agencies. That was to address the issues with FINRA through the Secretary of State's office and to keep us applicable with that. Representative Fleming had come over and testified with some concerns dealing with the Attorney General language. That language was struck, so there would not be a conflict with the boards receiving counsel and further having to be a judge on anything going on. At this time, I know there's some concerns on some of the further sections, and so we'll begin work on that at this time. Chairman Epps, I believe you had, what was your number, sir? 29. Chairman Epps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to offer an amendment which would involve striking Section 4 in its entirety from the bill.
All right, Chairman Epps, you're making a motion to strike Section 4 in its entirety.
Correct.
That would be again on line 121 through 141. 121 through 141. All right, and I think I had a second. Does that second stand? All right, we've got a motion to strike Section 4. We've got a second from Representative Henson. Those in favor of striking Section 4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes clearly have it. Section 4 is now struck. Senator Dugan, Representative Donahue, we'll get to you momentarily for comments. I'm sorry. Number 28.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make an amendment also on line 60. Well, starting on line 59, after the word emergency, strike the or. And then on line 60, after the word approval, put comma or through fault of the applicant.
Chairman Harden, repeat the first portion of your proposed
All right.
amendment again on line 59.
Line 59, strike the word or before a mandated federal or state agency. And then on line 60, comma or through fault of the applicant.
Chairman Harden, if I'm tracking you proper for the chair's interpretation here, maybe some clarity to the committee and those in attendance, the intent there on line 60 is to put some responsibility and accountability back on the applicant.
Exactly.
To
If
make
it's
sure
the
he or
fault
she
of the
does right.
applicant that there's a delay, then the city or county or the permitting authority should not be charged.
All right, we've got a motion. We've got a second from Representative Newton. Number 14, is this for discussion on the proposed amendment? All right, this is the proper time for discussion.
Thank you.
Just hold on.
Okay,
There we go.
with regard to where he's trying to change here, lines 58 and all, if you went to line 58 and took out the words "and that" and substituted the word "or" is caused directly by, I think it would read better.
Mr. Chairman, amendment did not even mention line 58, sir.
Yes, sir. She was offering a friendly suggestion for the flow of that paragraph. I don't think it changes the intent of your proposed amendment, Chairman Harden. I'm reading over it right now. Wants to take and that the processing the application or is, that's not gonna work. Senator Dugan, the primary author of the bill, would you like to give comment while we're studying this?
From where I'm seeing it right now, the language is already included elsewhere in the bill. So I honestly don't care if you want to add clarifying language in this section here to make it more apparent. But I'm fine with that. What it says is that the clarifying language is the clock doesn't start until the application is complete. So obviously, if there's an error by the applicant, the clock can't start. But if we want to do it here in addition to, I don't think it does anything but clarify it more. So I guess that's a negative way of saying I agree with it.
You've been a good trooper through this. Just bear with us a little longer, sir. All right, right now, these, I noticed we got a couple of questions. Are they in reference to the proposed amendment? You're recognized.
It was in response to the changing an and to an or, which I would oppose. I think changing the and on line 58 to an or would leave the first phrase standing all by itself with this any delay, whether it's natural state of emergency or anything serious, would just say any delay in processing this that they say is outside of their control. I believe that would significantly change it. It could be and much different than the chairman's amendment that added just the applicant section. So I would prefer not, for my second part, I would prefer not to change line 58.
Okay. Point noted, and thank you for bringing that up. Number 17.
For consistency's sake, since that provision is also applies to the state, on lines 169 to 174, if Chairman Harden, you'd be amenable to the same changes to apply to the
Repeat
state
the line
provision as
numbers
well.
again.
Lines 169 to 174 to also include that the words or through the fault of the applicant. I believe, just for clarification's sake, on line 172, after the word approval.
Representative, are you offering that up as a way of in addition to Chairman Harden's amendment, to put it all together to make the consistency between both sections?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if Chairman Harden is all right with
Chairman
those
Harden, I think
changes.
that's probably a good catch right there. You okay with that? All right, so what we've got in front of us, thank you, Representative. So what we've got in front of us is a Harden amendment here on lines 172 and on line 59 and 60. On lines 59, striking or. And on line 60 is inserting a comma after approval and inserting or through fault of the applicant. And again, the same work on lines 172, the comma after approval and inserting or through fault of the applicant. All right, that is the Harden amendment proposed. Do I have a second? We got a Newton second. All in favor of accepting the Harden amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, and the Harden amendment carries. We're getting a clean marked up copy of Senate Bill 2 here. All right, for those that have just come in a couple of minutes late, we struck section 4 and have worked on our first amendment from Chairman Harden. Chairman Epps moved that we struck section 4, and Chairman Harden's amendment has just passed. I'm going to take this time and turn it over to Representative Donahue and Senator Dugan for comments on your bill now that we've jumped into it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I think we pretty much, everybody's put a little bit of something into it. So the main thing I think we're trying to look here is we've changed enough that most people should be happy. And it reminds me of when Snoopy was looking through the window Thanksgiving, and he saw a big turkey, and he saw a whole lot of nice food. He started thinking, you know, I have to eat dog food. And then he really started thinking back, and he thought, you know, at least I'm not the turkey. So why don't we consider some of the good that everybody has put into this and try to pass this on down the road. I had to have a little bit of humor. I've allowed this gentleman to have some every meeting, and, you know. The biggest part is, again, what we're trying to do is make sure that we have this bill vetted. I think everybody's had the opportunity to look at it now quite a bit and weigh in where they stand. And I think we've become positive on trying to improve a system, and by improving a little bit at a time, maybe now, and if we have to later come back and try to improve it better would be great. The changes, I think when you went over, there's no need for me to go over each one of them again unless you want me to. From the lines
It's up to
that
you as
mentioned.
the presenter of the bill, whatever makes you comfortable.
I think we beat that dead horse. But pretty much, if you want me to, I'll be glad to. And with this, I think, like I said, we've about covered everything you can in this meeting. Any more questions?
Well, and you just had to ask if there were questions.
I'll retract that
Vice
also.
Chairman Deffenbaugh has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. The question I have is more of, what does this bill mean now? Can you give me a quick synopsis of what's actually this bill does now with all the changes?
It pretty much still has the opportunity, if an applicant, you fill out an application and you do your part, means you put everything and answer everything that's required, then it goes into the process of your state to fill out a license. If it's a renewal, if it's an original, you have a certain process that you go through. Same thing with each municipality. You're going to take the ones that aren't doing a great job and give them the opportunity to turn this around a little bit faster, maybe to be a little bit more efficient. That's the main thing I would say we're trying to still do from the intention where we started. The intention is to make it a little bit better system. Not that the whole state is doing everything wrong, but just to improve a little bit for that applicant, if they fill out the application, to return a certain amount for their license or permits.
Okay, now with the Section 4 being removed, which was, as I understand reading some of it, it was about the billing not having multiple.
That was on property taxes, and that's gone now.
That's
completely.
gone completely.
Yes, sir,
The only thing in here is the expedited permit.
Pretty much, that would be
Pretty much.
one of the things, yes, sir.
Is there anything else in there that I'm not reading?
There's several things in there. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to commend the committee on writing a very good bill. I think y'all have done a phenomenal job here. And I appreciate the good representative giving me the opportunity to see if I was paying attention while y'all were doing the rewrite. The 50% is still there. The accountability at the issuing authority is still there. The opportunity for state to help promote growth and development in individual communities is still there. Is this whole process as far as I would have liked it? No. If you want it as far as I would like for it to go, I'd have to turn all this back in and give you the bill that I started with. But that's not the way, that's not the way our society works. We come together, we work through, I listen to your ideas, you listen to mine, and we move forward. And it's an incremental change for the better, is still for the better.
Okay, then my final statement, there's no hearing aid bill in here.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We couldn't put that and fantasy sports in here together.
Let's don't lose everybody now.
Sorry, turn the mic off.
All right, let's, we're in a posture to address the changes in the current form of the substitute to Senate Bill 2, number 17.
Thank you, Representatives. Donahue, Senator Dugan. I raised some concerns regarding the last part of this legislation that would change the administrative rules, and I understand, I think, after taking a better look at the provisions, and that it would make it easier just for these modifications to occur without problem, since the governor's veto would no longer be needed in some instances. I did have a question as I was taking a deeper dive into this bill again. With the alternative permitting review and inspection definition and application to this bill, lines 28 to 29. Now, I believe that was provided specifically given some of the concerns raised by smaller municipalities and whether or not they'd have the resources to have a expedited processing system in place. In looking at Code Section OCGA 8226, specifically OCGA 8226 G3 and G14, there seem to be a few conflicting provisions between existing law and what's provided. Of course, whatever conflicts would be repealed, but I was wondering if y'all would be able to kind of explain what that alternative permitting process would look like. Specifically as to G3, where the fees would go, since current law says that the fees should be paid to the local government, whereas this says the county or municipality shall not collect any additional revenues.
You want this one, or you? I mean, it's
I'm gonna
right
ask,
here, but
if you will, gentlemen, I've got code sections D,
Private plan developers, pretty much is.
D, E, and F, but I do not have G. Can you reference G3 for me?
Yes, sir. So it says the person, firm, or corporation retaining a private professional provider to conduct a plan review or an inspection shall be required to pay to the county or municipality which requires a plan review or inspection the same regulatory fees and charges which would have been required had the plan review or inspection been conducted by a county or municipal inspector.
Basically, that gives them an option, and upon that, maybe that would speed up the process from having this option
Okay.
from each county or municipality.
Thank you.
The fees will be set by the private planner developer.
So would the private inspector receive any of the fees, or would they
They
still?
would receive the fees if they do all the work.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then just with OCGA 8226 G14, so G14 essentially has a preemption provision saying this subsection shall not preempt any local laws, rules, or procedures.
And can I inject?
Oh.
They would get 50%, and the municipality would get 50%
Okay.
of the fee.
So the private inspection contractor would receive
50%.
And when this is completed, would the municipality then receive an additional No, I'm assuming, since they don't complete it.
the way it sits right now is, that's law. You can already go ahead and do this. And the way that's reimbursed is, you're my private inspector. I'm paying you 100%, and then you're my municipality. I'm paying you 100%, even though you didn't do anything but okay him to do all the work. And so what this would do was the municipality would get the 50%. They wouldn't get the full 100 because they didn't do 100% of the work, but they get compensated for their participation and their responsibilities.
Thank you, Senator. I think I appreciate the intent of the bill and what it's trying to do. However, I think my overall concern is just the cost it would place on local government. I know that there is a specific provision in this bill that says any changes need to have a fiscal impact in terms of the change a rule would have on the local governing authority, and yet I again thank you for the intent as well as for working with this committee, but thank you.
All right, number 21.
Just going to comment. I think what you're getting to is that if the work of going over an application is done by somebody else, why should you double pay or overpay? Because again, we go back to fees. Fees should reflect what is the cost of the actual work or the cost of what it would require, the government to go through and process an application. In other words, it's not to be a revenue generator. If I'm mistaken, I think there are other parts in the code that talk about fees. It's not necessarily to be a revenue generator. It's supposed to be something to cover the cost of whatever it's associated with.
I agree.
Is that?
That's the point.
I agree.
All right. Thank you for that point of clarity, Chairman Knight. Number 14. We having trouble with your button today. Bear with me. Hit. Could be a sign. I don't know.
But it's still
Representative
working.
Henson.
Thank you. I just have, again, 2 amendments. One would go to line 48, 49. For clarification's sake, where you have 10% of the original fee for each 10. After the word 10, put operating business days, just for clarification. Or operating business, since we have the word days. So between 10 and days, put operating business. Otherwise, one person could,
But that wouldn't be a business day.
Senator, you want to comment on that?
I
10
don't
days
have,
or 10 business days?
I don't have a concern with what she's saying. I don't understand operating business days as opposed to business days. I mean, that seems like the same thing. And I understand if you're saying business days are Monday through Friday, but then you have a holiday somewhere in there, that's not a business day then, it's a holiday. So, I don't. Yeah, would you be comfortable with just business with the,
yes.
okay, see, we're working together. I like
So
that.
for point of clarity, make sure the chair is following you here, Representative Henson. Your proposal here is on line 48 after the word 10 to insert business
Yes.
days.
Yes, sir. But is to just put in the word business. And then I had one other amendment.
Okay, let's take this one right here.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm gonna accept that in the form of a motion from you to insert business after 10 and before days on line 48. That'll be the Henson amendment. Do I have a second?
For consistency's sake, again, if we could include that on the state provision as well.
Let's turn that back.
What line is that?
Just for consistency's sake, again, if we could make those changes to the
Yeah.
state portion as well, that'd be line 163.
Yep, good catch. Everybody on that, line 48 and line 163, after 10 and before days, inserting the word business. All right, we've got a motion by Representative Henson. Do I have a second? Got multiple seconds. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That's what you call strong. The
One
Henson
whole
amendment
word.
carries.
Okay.
All right, no more.
No.
No, I'm joking. Come on. What's your next one?
Okay, this goes back to what I had the other day, and I do have the language here, but it is somewhat shorter. And it would go between lines 67 and 68 and create a new section of section 7. And, there's a great deal of concern about who's holding up an application. And whether it be the county, municipality, or the applicant. So I think it needs some clarification, and if you put in, and I'm gonna read, and I do have the language here to give them, but it would say, an application is considered processed when the county or municipality completes all required reviews of the submitted application, plans, reports, or other supporting documentation, and provides the applicant with either the permit or license for which the applicant applied, or a response from the county, should be county or municipality, indicating what revisions, supplemental information, or additional documentation must be provided to obtain the permit or license sought. Would you like to read it?
Would you pass a copy down here, please?
Yes, I will, and let me just put municipality here. Okay, that's it, right there. What? In the bold. Okay. No, I don't, but that's okay. I'll give it to the chairman.
Senator Dugan, have you or Representative Donahue seen this? No. Okay. We'll ask you to carry a copy down there. Let them review it too. I want to give the authors an opportunity to look at it. All right, Representative Henson, we're going to suspend on that while they look over your proposal, and I'm going to go to number 11. And he waives. Number 9.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to speak to that one question I had about the proposed amendment.
The one that they're taking up now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Right up on line 64, an established deadline for processing a completed application. That last part that changed sounded like those were all things that would mean an application wasn't complete. So I don't know that the deadlines would apply until the application is complete. So the timeline doesn't even start until it's completed. Now, I don't know if there's a room for disagreement about what's completed or not. I don't remember the exact language, but it sounds like any of those things that were mentioned would constitute an incomplete application, and your deadline, I don't think your clock even starts until you have a completed application in line 64.
And I believe that's what you spoke to earlier, wasn't it, Senator?
The issuing authority tells the applicant, yes,
Your
your
applica-
application is complete. Once that entity says your application is complete, the clock starts. They may say you need to go get form so-and-so, which you don't want to happen, but inevitably, there's gonna be something, sometime that's out there. And it would not be fair to the agency to say, the clock has started and I'm kinda just kicked back over here, not submitting the required information. So that's already the language in the bill.
Okay.
All right, now thinking y'all are gonna get some legal counsel right here on that, but I believe, Representative Henson, your proposed amendment's already covered in the bill. So did you hear the senator's explanation there? If you'll look to your immediate left, legal counsel there can walk you through. I believe we've already got it covered in some of the work of this committee. All right, we're in a posture now to take a motion with this committee with its will on this substitute to Senate Bill 2 with the Hardin Amendment and the Henson Amendment and the Epps Amendment. This amendment's already addressed. The representative and I just discussed it. Her intent of her second amendment's already covered, so everybody's in good stand on that posture. So we're in the forum to receive motions on the bill as it lays. Chairman Knight.
I hope I'm getting this right. Make a motion, we move on the bill as amended, or just move on the bill and then, no, we've already done the amendments.
As amended.
As amended by the three amendments that the chairman just mentioned.
All right. Committee, track with me now. We've got a motion to move on LC 430703 ERS with the Hardin, Epps, and Henson amendments. And we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. The ayes clearly have it. This bill will move on to rules, gentlemen. I would ask for and encourage you all, this is in different form than it came over to the House, obviously. Continue to work with this committee, because if we end up in conference, we want to have a good piece and a good stand working forward. Representative, you know your process and rules. Work with your senator to get it moving, okay? This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good work.